We are live.
Happy Monday. It means you made it through the weekend. Whether it was a good weekend or a bad weekend, you still made it through. We appreciate you being here. I am Old New Dude. He is.
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
Yeah, one of these days I'm going to say I am Old New Dude in my sleep, and my wife's going to punch me. Uh, it's like,
Uh,
do you want fries with that? I mean, people at McDonald's, they have to say that in their sleep at night. But neither here nor there. All right, this is the Clash of Kings, Sansa 6. It's getting good. I know George picks the stopping point for his books, but it just seems like the closer you get to the end of the book, the better things start getting, and you're like drooling at the mouth, waiting for the next book to come out. But now that all the books are out up to a
you
certain
know,
point.
I've really warmed up to Clash a lot. It's hard to call it my favorite because I don't know that I can ever say that. But man, it is so good. It's
Yeah,
especially when you look at it as this Tyrion Ned parallel with Dorcas being the actual behind the scenes villain. And, it's oh man, it's really good. And the ending is just amazing, right? We're
yeah,
almost there. In fact, we're getting to the last 10 chapters here.
yeah.
And anyway, I just really
Well,
appreciate
I
this book
mean,
more and more.
the first and second time you read through there, I mean, he writes it to where you automatically think that Littlefinger is the main villain.
Hmm.
And as I've read on, I even did a not in depth like some of the other channels, but just talking about an individual character for a video, and that's like 2 years ago, whatever. But my opinion was, and I like doing the what if question: what if Littlefinger isn't the villain that everybody thinks he is? What if, because I believe he was visited by the Three Eyed Crow. I believe he is still visited by the Three Eyed Crow. He learned how to play the Game of Thrones from the Three Eyed Crow. Three Eyed Crow manipulates him the exact same way he manipulates other people by what does he want and how to get him to turn left or right. And if 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 he's, what does I say? I know.
Bite
Listen,
your
I'm not
tongue,
done.
dude.
I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done.
Ah, ah.
But my question, and I really do like doing the what if or why did George say that sentence or
Well, I
why.
mean, I do think that people have, do kind of consider him to be somewhat of the victim of Liza in a sense, right? That he's arguably a rape victim, but so it's not like it's that unusual to look at him as potentially a victim here.
Yeah, well, Varys' interaction with Tyrion
Wait, who?
tends to give him a little
Whose
bit of a
interaction?
pass. Dorcas,
Dorcas.
Dorcas. Well, I mean, we as the reader tend to give him a bit of a pass on being the villain, but I think he was the villain in plain sight like the whole time. I agree with you that Dorcas is the main villain, definitely in King's Landing. Hey,
Yeah, this is especially in this book.
yeah.
Um,
Hello from
anyway,
Chicago.
this is Clash 60, Sansa 6. He's here for us. It's a fairly short chapter. And hello, Mother Royne. The torches shimmered brightly against the hammered metal of the wall sconces, filling the queen's ballroom with silvery light. Yet there was still darkness in that hall. Sansa could see it in the pale eyes of Sir Ilan Payne, who stood by the back door, still as stone, taking neither food nor wine. She could hear it in Lord Giles's racking cough and the whispered voice of Osney Kettleblack when he slipped in to bring Cersei the tidings. So this is a short chapter, so I think it might be nice to do a little Kettleblack recap.
That's right.
Um, Oswell's the dad. Dantos has been at court since Duskendale, but somehow recognizes Oswell, calls him Oswell, and this annoys Oswell. Toodles believes he is Oswell Went. Girls Gone Canon and LML have talked about this and like the symbolism. Trust the symbolism. That counts as a triple Targaryen's reference. If you're keeping score, probably two with the shirt. Osmond is the oldest brother and a brother of the Kingsguard, like Dad. Osfrid is the middle brother and captain of the Lannister Guards. And Osney sleeps with Cersei and plots against Marjorie Tyrell in order to assassinate Jon Snow potentially. But of course, we know that doesn't exactly go as planned.
Well, okay. Here's the thing. I'm not knocking that theory. I got nothing to prove against it. But like I've said before, if that's true and he is Went and those are his children, that means they had them before the event.
Lizzie's complaining. I'm not taking over her job. How dare you?
Well, I agree with Lizzie. Never argue with Lizzie.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, he had to have those children before the Tower of Joy, which we've seen other Kingsguard have children, which Dunk is a direct.
Yeah. You made that point before, right? That the one thing that's interesting about that is the implication that he's actually been fathering children prior to. That is kind of interesting.
Now here's another thing. Okay. That would put the Wentz, especially the father, working for Littlefinger, right?
Mm-hmm. So well, people have talked about how he seems to be. In fact, Toodles has an article that he seems to, recently how he seems to be working towards Harrenhal from the beginning. That if you look at things right, he has to know. Like he tells us that he likes to position pieces, know how to move people, and so forth. He has to know that Tywin is not going to tolerate Slint as right, and that's specifically his idea. Okay? Right. So he chooses to put Janos as Lord of Harrenhal.
Right.
And so and to somewhat make it obvious that he's the appropriate person to bring the Vale back into the fold, right?
Right.
I wonder if Tyrion with one green and one black eye would have been recruited as a greenseer if he could have been kidnapped. Interesting.
That brings up a question, though. I assume, which will happen, happens when you assume, make an ass out of you and me, but that the Lannisters and specifically Tyrion's Targaryen blood, he had a near-death experience, sort of, and he wasn't visited by the Three-Eyed Crow, which is, I mean.
Well, he has interesting dreams.
Yes, he does. All right, what's Lizzie say?
Is he working for him or watching him for someone else? Yeah, that's an interesting question, right? So if he's Oswell, right, then he's actually potentially still he could be still communicating with Ned or Arthur or Gerald, right? I mean, potentially he could still be involved in keeping an eye on things, right? So it could be that he's actually and probably Dorcas, right? Because we think that when Ned says that he's that he's had to work with people he doesn't like and that he likes Dorcas the least, and the implication is that he has had to work with Dorcas in the past. Obviously, we believe that Dorcas was instrumental in setting up Aegon, right, and worked with Ned to get to or at least was assigned that task by Ned, right? So so the implication would be that that he in fact that would kind of point towards Dorcas actually being the one that's really with him rather than Littlefinger. Like he's like the Kettle Blacks are supposedly like Tyrion thinks that he's got them. Cersei thinks she's got them. Tyrion thinks that he's got them. Littlefinger thinks he's got them, but maybe in reality Dorcas has them.
Well, I wasn't sold on the Oswell Went theory, but I just thought of something that helps me move in that direction. All right. We believe that Corn Halfhand is Sir Gerald Hightower. And that
Toodles and Lady Thistle have really convinced me that, that's right.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Then you got Mance as Sir Arthur Dayne.
Right.
Then my theory that Tormund is Lord Willem Dustin. Went was at the big giant powwow at the Tower of Joy. And if he's not one of those three, then where did he go? So the theory
Right,
that
but we know that they should have been splitting up, right?
right, and that in my mind gives Went a place to go. And even though we're not exactly sure what was decided at the powwow for him to do, um, I'm really starting to like the theory. Okay,
Now, the great Busey used to say that he actually thought that Davos was actually in on things from the beginning. That they would have needed a smuggler in particular,
ooh,
and that somehow you had to get Danny to Viserys, right?
right,
Um, and so he kind of thought that maybe Davos would have been that smuggler, that you would have needed that specific skill set.
right.
Anyway, anyway,
Okay, I know we
for
went on a
for all
little
this
rant
talk of
there.
people
Sorry.
being for all this talk of people being pawns, it seems poetic justice that Littlefinger is just someone's pawn. Yeah, I like that.
Yep. Everybody is generally wrong with what they can think.
Sansa was finishing her broth when he came the first time, entering through the back. Geez, that sounds dirty. She glimpsed him talking to his brother Osfrid. Then he climbed the dais and knelt beside the high seat, smelling of horse. 4 long, thin scratches on his cheek, crusted with scabs, his hair falling down past his collar and into his eyes. 4 scars from our hero, Alayaya.
There you go. Also, wanted to mention before we got too far on the just to reiterate on the Theon's Wex learning how to read and all that stuff. Sir Ilan Payne. I know we've mentioned it before. Even though Jamie picks him because he can't talk, he was Lord of the Red Cloaks. Uh, I have no doubt in my mind that the man knows how to read and write. I just it popped in my head. I wanted to make sure I said it.
Yeah, and the fact that they claim that the Kettle Blacks can't is suspicious too, right?
Right.
So, anyway, yeah, I'm not so certain that that's correct.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean,
Um,
anytime that you're told something in this story, chances are you're just being misled. So whatever you're
yeah,
said, you just got to go
yeah.
ahead and assume the opposite. Okay, sorry.
No problem. For all his whispering, Sansa could not help but hear. The fleets are locked in battle. Some archers got ashore, but the hounds cut them to pieces, your grace. Your brother's raising his chain. I heard the signal. Some drunkards down to Flea Bottom are smashing doors and climbing through windows. Lord Bywater sent the gold cloaks to deal with them. Baelor's sept is jammed full, everyone praying. And my son? The king went to Baelor's to get the High Stepton's blessing. Now he's walking the walls with a hand, telling the men to be brave, lifting their spirits, as it were. Cersei beckoned to her page for another cup of wine, a golden vintage from the arbor, fruity and rich. Oh, arbor gold. Anyway, the queen was drinking heavily, but the wine only seemed to make her more beautiful. Her cheeks were flushed, and her eyes had a bright, feverish heat to them as she looked down over the hall. Eyes of wildfire, Sansa thought. See, Triplet Targaryen's episode 5.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure we've said this before. All the gripes that we had about Robert, whether it's the women and the drinking and all that stuff, she's slowly turning into a
Oh yeah,
female Robert.
oh yeah.
With,
Yeah. She's like deliberately does all the things that she didn't like about Robert, right? And there's a strong parallel between her and Robert and Sansa and
yeah,
Ned near the end of this chapter.
yeah.
What he's saying for. Anyway, musicians played, jugglers juggled. Moonboy lurched about the hall on stilts, making mock of everyone, while Sir Dantos chased serving girls on his broomstick horse. The guests laughed, but it was a joyless laughter, the sort of laughter that can turn into sobbing in half a heartbeat. Their bodies are here, but their thoughts are on the city walls, and their hearts as well. After the broth came a salad of apples, nuts, and raisins. At any other time, it might have made a tasty dish, but tonight all the food was flavored with fear. Sansa was not the only one in the hall without an appetite. Lord Giles was coughing more than he was eating. Lawless Stokeworth sat hunched and shivering, and the young bride of one of Sir Lancel's knights began to weep uncontrollably. The queen commanded Maester Franken to put her to bed with a cup of dream wine. Tears, she said scornfully to Sansa as the woman was led from the hall. The woman's weapon. My lady mother used to call them. The man's weapon is a sword, and that tells us all you need to know, doesn't it? Men must be very brave, though, said Sansa, to ride out and face swords and axes, everyone trying to kill you. Jamie told me once that he only feels truly alive in battle and in bed. She lifted her cup and took a long swallow. Her salad was untouched. I would sooner face any number of swords than sit helpless like this, pretending to enjoy the company of this flock of frightened hens. You asked them here, Your Grace. Certain things are expected of a queen. They'll be expected of you should you ever wed Joffrey. Best learn. The queen studied the wives, daughters, and mothers who filled the benches. Of themselves, the hens are nothing, but their cocks are important for one reason or another, and some may survive this battle. So it behooves me to give their women my protection. If my wretched dwarf of a brother should somehow manage to prevail, they will return to their husbands and fathers full of tales about how brave I was, how my courage inspired them and lifted their spirits, how I never doubted our victory even for a moment. And if the castle should fall? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Cersei did not wait for a denial. If I'm not betrayed by my own guards, I may be able to hold here for a time. Then I can go to the walls and offer to yield to Lord Stannis in person. That will spare us the worst. But if Maegor's holdfast should fall before Stannis can come up, why then, most of my guests are in for a bit of rape, I'd say. And you should never rule out mutilation, torture, and murder at times like these. Sansa was horrified. These are women, unarmed and gently born. Their birth protects them, Cersei admitted, though not as much as you'd think. Each one's worth a good ransom, but after the madness of battle, soldiers often seem to want flesh more than coin. Even so, a golden shield is better than none. Out in the streets, the women won't be treated near as tenderly, nor will our servants. Pretty things like that serving wench of Lady Tanda's could be in for a lively night, but don't imagine the old and the infirm and the ugly will be spared. Enough drink will make blind washerwomen and reeking pig girls seem as comely as you, sweetling. Me? Try not to sound so like a mouse, Sansa. You're a woman now, remember? And betrothed to my firstborn. The queen sipped at her wine. Were it anyone else outside the gates, I might hope to beguile him, but this is Stannis Baratheon. I'd have a better chance of seducing his horse. She noticed the look on Sansa's face and laughed. Have I shocked you, my lady? She leaned close. You little fool. Tears are not a woman's only weapon. You've got another one between your legs, and you'd best learn to use it. You'll find men use their swords freely enough, both kinds of swords. Sansa was spared the need to reply when two Kettleblacks re-entered the hall. Sir Osmond and his brothers had become great favorites about the castle. They were always ready with a smile and a jest, and got on with grooms and huntsmen as well as they did with knights and squires. With the serving wenches, they got on best of all, it was gossip. Of late, Sir Osmond had taken Sandor Clegane's place by Joffrey's side, and Sansa had heard the woman at the washing well saying he was as strong as the hound, only younger and faster. If that was so, she wondered why she had never once heard of these Kettleblacks before Sir Osmond was named the Kingsguard. Which kind of reminds me of, in fact, I think they were supposed to remind us a bit of Dunk, right?
Yeah. Another thing on the Oswell went,
Sure.
if he had the children before the Tower of Joy, then chances are he's a bit of a player, and his sons, the Kettleblacks, are exactly like the father.
Oh, of course. Yeah. None of that, but it would also be somewhat of a parallel with Lusamore the Lusty.
Yeah.
Of how strong.
Yeah.
Osney was all smiles as he knelt. In fact, they even claim don't they even claim that a knight of how strong knighted them or something?
Robert Strong.
Osmond, anyway.
Was it Strong or was it Stone?
Oh, maybe it was, I don't know.
I think it's Robert Stone that knighted him.
Okay, well. Anyway.
Yeah, Strong was saved for Robert Strong is the mountain.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Osney was all smiles as he knelt beside the queen. The hulks have gone up, Your Grace. The whole Blackwater's awash with wildfire. 100 ships burning, maybe more. And my son? He's at the Mudgate with a hand in the Kingsguard, Your Grace. He spoke to the archers on the hoardings before and gave them a few tips on handling a crossbow, he did. All agree he's a right brave boy. He'd best remain a right live boy. Cersei turned to his brother Osfrid, who was taller, sterner, and wore a drooping black mustache. Yes? Osfrid had donned a steel half-helm over his long black hair, and the look on his face was grim. Your Grace, he said quietly, the boys caught a groom and 2 maidservants trying to sneak out a postern with 3 of the king's horses. The knight's first traitors, the queen said, but not the last, I fear. Have Sir Ilyn see to them, and put their heads on pikes outside the stables as a warning. As they left, she turned to Sansa. Another lesson you should learn if you hope to sit beside my son. Be gentle on a night like this, and you'll have treasons popping up all about you like mushrooms after a hard rain. The only way to keep your people loyal is to make certain they fear you more than they do the enemy. I will remember, your grace, said Sansa. But she had always heard that love was a surer route to the people's loyalty than fear. If I am ever a queen, I'll make them love me.
What's Lizzie say there? Before we get too far?
How strong, if only their ability to survive was as strong as their seed. So this obviously could be foreshadowing, right? If I'm ever a queen, I'll make them love me.
Right.
I certainly like the approach and the fact that she's simultaneously listens to the lesson and chooses the alternative.
I got a question. House Strong had Harrenhal, right?
Yeah.
House Went had Harrenhal, right?
Yeah.
So it's possible that House Went could have seeds from House Strong, right?
Yeah, probably. Right. Right. Oh, and it's tying them back to Harrenhal yet again, right? And kind of hinting at,
Yep, and tying them to the King's Guard from House Strong that had all the children and everything. Okay.
With some more of the lusty.
Yep.
Crab claw pies followed the salad. Then came mutton roasted with leeks and carrots served in trenchers of hollowed bread. Lollies ate too fast, got sick, and rushed all over herself and her sister. Lord Giles coughed, drank, and passed out. The queen gazed down in disgust where he sprawled with his face in his trencher and his hand in a puddle of wine. The gods must have been mad to waste manhood on the likes of him, and I must have been mad to demand his release. Osford Kettleblack returned, crimson cloak swirling. There's folks gathering in the square, your grace, asking to take refuge in the castle. Not a mob, rich merchants and the like. Command them to return to their homes, the queen said. If they won't go, have her cross them and kill a few. No sorties, I won't have the gates open for any reason. As you command, he bowed and moved off. The queen's face was hard and angry. Would that I could take a sword to their necks myself. Her voice was starting to slur. When we were little, Jamie and I were so much alike that even our Lord Father could not tell us apart. Sometimes, as a lark, we would dress in each other's clothes and spend a whole day each as the other. Yet even so, when Jamie was given his first sword, there was none for me. What do I get? I remember asking. We're so much alike, I could never understand why they treated us so differently. Jamie learned to fight with sword and lance and mace, while I was taught to smile and sing and please. He was heir to Cashley Rock, while I was to be sold to some stranger like a horse, to be ridden whenever my new owner liked, beaten whenever he liked, and cast aside in time for a younger filly. Jamie's lot was to be glory and power, while mine was birth and moonblood.
I had a question.
Yep.
We hear about how much they look alike, and then we hear about them swapping their clothes. Could that be foreshadowing that that's going to be done again later in the story?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Or somebody else will do something similar or something.
Or Marjorie and
Loras. Yeah, because they're specifically told that they look even more alike.
Well, I mean, to swap the appearance could be used to get out of King's Landing or to be able to get into King's Landing somehow.
Oh, maybe, and it probably wouldn't work today, but maybe it could with glamour.
Right.
But you're a queen of all the 7 kingdoms, Sansa said. When it comes to swords, the queen is only a woman after all. Cersei's wine cup was empty. The page moved to fill it again, but she turned it over and shook her head. No more. I must keep a clear head.
What'd she say?
I just imagine Tywin's face when he realizes his hair is in a dress. I must keep a clear head. A bit late for that, mayhaps. The last course was goat cheese served with baked apples. The scent of cinnamon filled the hall as Osty Kettleblack slipped in to kneel once more between them. Your Grace, he murmured, Stannis has landed men on the tourney grounds, and there's more coming across. The Mudgate's under attack, and they've brought a ram to the King's Gate. The imp's gone out to drive them off. That will fill them with fear, the Queen said dryly. He hasn't taken Joff, I hope. No, your Grace. The king's with my brother at the whores, flinging antlermen into the river. With the Mudgate under assault? Folly. Tell Sir Osmond I want him out of there at once. It's too dangerous. Fetch him back to the castle. The imp said, It's what I said that ought concern you. Cersei's eyes narrowed. Your brother will do as he's told, or I'll see to it that he leads the next sortie himself, and you'll go with him. After the meal had been cleared away, many of the guests asked leave to go to the sept. Cersei graciously granted their request. Lady Tanda and her daughters were among those who fled. For those who remained, a singer was brought forth to fill the hall with the sweet music of the high harp. He sang of Jonquil and Florian, Prince Aemon the Dragonite, and his love for his brother's queen, of Nymeria's 10,000 ships. They were beautiful songs, but terribly sad. Several of the women began to weep, and Sansa felt her own eyes growing moist.
I got something for you.
Yeah, yep.
The musician. I can't say it. the guy playing the music. The first song we're told is Jaqen and Florin. Can that be a Littlefinger spy checking in on Sansa and them because of her and Danto?
Yeah, it does seem like these are like the choices that you would make if you're trying to impress Sansa specifically, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, could be.
Sorry.
Yeah, and he's there's references to Prince Aemon and his love for his brother's queen. Always. Okay, yeah. Anyway, very good, dear. The queen leaned close. You want to practice those tears? You'll need them for King Stannis. Sansa shifted nervously. Your Grace? Oh, spare me your hollow courtesies. Matters must have reached a desperate strait out there if they need a dwarf to lead them. So you might as well take off your mask. I know all about your little treasons in the Godswood. The Godswood? Don't look at Sir Dantos. Don't, Sansa told herself. She doesn't know. No one knows. Dantos promised me. My Florian would never fail me. I've done no treasons. I only visit the Godswood to pray. For Stannis, or your brother, it's all the same. Why else seek your father's gods? You're praying for our defeat. What would you call that if not treason? I pray for Joffrey, she insisted nervously. Why? Because he treats you so sweetly? The queen took a flagon of sweet plum wine from a passing serving girl and filled Sansa's cup. Drink, she commanded coldly. Perhaps it will give you the courage to deal with truth for a change. Sansa lifted the cup to her lips and took a sip. The wine was cloyingly sweet, but very strong. You can do better than that, Cersei said. Drain the cup, Sansa. Your queen commands you. Sure sounds like Robert and Ned.
Yes, sir. Hey,
Sammy
agrees.
It almost gagged her, but Sansa emptied the cup, gulping down the thick, sweet wine until her head was swimming. More? Cersei asked. No, please. The queen looked displeased. When you asked about Sir Ilyn earlier, I lied to you. Would you like to hear the truth, Sansa? Would you like to know why he's really here? She did not dare answer, but it did not matter. The queen raised a hand and beckoned, never waiting for a reply. Sansa had not even seen Sir Ilyn return to the hall, but suddenly there he was, striding from the shadows behind the dais, as silent as a cat. He carried ice unsheathed. Her father had always cleaned the blade in the Godswood after he took a man's head, Sansa recalled. Sir Ilyn was not so fastidious. There was blood drying on the rippling steel, the red already fading to brown. Tell Lady Sansa why I keep you by us, said Cersei. Sir Ilyn opened his mouth and emitted a choking rattle. His pox-scarred face had no expression. He's here for us, he says, the queen said. Stannis may take the city, and he may take the throne, but I will not suffer him to judge me. I do not mean for him to have us alive. Us? You heard me. So perhaps you had best pray again, Sansa, and for a different outcome. The Starks will have no joy from the fall of House Lannister, I promise you. She reached out and touched Sansa's hair, brushing it lightly away from her neck. Of course, the implication being preparing her neck. But anyway.
Yeah.
Up next, Clash 61, Tyrion 14. It sounded almost like Pod.
I heard it's a short chapter, but it's still a really good chapter.
Yep. Yeah. And the next one's surprisingly short considering how important the events are.
Well, I'm assuming he's keeping it kind of short to bounce us back and forth.
Well, yeah, because it makes it feel fast, right? It makes the battle feel fever pitched, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of built slowly in Davos's chapter, right?
Right.
It's a big long chapter, and then he starts with these rapid fire chapters to continue the battle and kind of keep you off guard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my favorite part of this chapter is my realization that the Went theory could be 100% true.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of symbolism and parallels that point that way.
Yeah. And You know me, I like new theories. That one was it didn't sound like it was true, or I didn't want it to be true, or I didn't have enough information to think that it was true. But after thinking about it, all on this video here, I went
Yeah,
from maybe not to yeah, I'm pretty sure it's probably true.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Part of the point of Lucimer the Lusty might be to establish these patterns, and specifically, like you said, interesting
right.
that it's specifically how strong and Harrenhal that's being tied to the idea.
Yeah. I mean, the Kettle Blacks aren't small people either.
Oh yeah,
I mean, they're good sized knights. I mean, I don't know about their fighting skills, but I mean, I mean, I mean, I can see some strong blood in there,
yeah,
especially with their actions. And if their actions mirror their father's, I mean, it's completely plausible that he had three boys, if not probably more. There might be some more Kettle Blacks out there. There might be
yep,
some women. There might be some girl
yep.
children. You never know. So yeah, I like that a lot. And I like that we see that Cersei is slowly turning into Robert.
Oh yeah,
Uh, in this chapter, it wasn't quite as slowly as it has been, but I mean, it's all there. I mean, she turned into
yep,
what she hated the most, and that was Robert.
yep,
I think it all started with the first boar that she ate that killed Robert, and it's just kind of gone downhill all since then.
yep. And
Because
there's
doesn't it
9
even later
chapters
on say
left.
that? Doesn't even later on it says that she's gaining weight?
Well, she claims that the washerwomen are shrinking her dresses.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was a short one, 30 minutes. Or
Yeah.
31,
Yeah.
32,
Some people have
32 minutes.
speculated that maybe she's pregnant.
Ooh. But she was told she'd only have 3 children, and she didn't gain weight. It's a conspiracy. Yes, it is. The washerwomen are messing with her.
It could be, especially with Dorcas there.
Now, you never know. Mess with her head. No, I'm thinking with all that. I mean, she doesn't eat a lot here, but she does seem to, I think, to like boar quite a bit. And then you got the wine and the wine and the wine, and it
Hmm.
doesn't matter the flavor of wine. She'll drink any of it, which we've seen here in this chapter. Because I think she went through 3 different kinds of wine. Uh, Arbor Gold, and I forget the other 2.
Right, right. And of
But
course, usually, at least in the later books, Arbor Gold is served with lies, right?
yeah, it's true. Well, cool.
But it does make you wonder if Sir Ilan hasn't actually been ordered to certainly he hasn't been ordered to like keep Sansa there or anything, right? Because we know that she kind of that Dantos tells her now's her chance and she goes off, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Well, man, there's been no communication with the Kettle Blacks and Sansa, and I'm assuming Lizzie was implicating that the Oswald Went was there looking. Was he sent there?
well, that's what
Who?
she's saying is he thinks the Kettle Blacks are spying for him, but are we sure that they're not actually spying for Dorcas on Littlefinger?
Right, but the dad working directly
Right.
for Littlefinger. Lizzie had said that he was there looking for someone. I'm trying to figure out.
No, no, no. She's saying he's spying on Littlefinger
Oh, okay.
for
Looking for.
Dorcas, right?
Okay, yeah,
We
yeah, yeah,
know
yeah.
we know that right with Triple Targaryens, we would know that he would actually be partnering with Dorcas to watch
Well, then is Dorcas the bad
essentially.
guy that we think he is?
In this book, he's kind of the bad guy because in this book, I mean, from Tyrion's perspective, right?
Right.
As Tyrion as the main protagonist in this book, I mean, I'm not claiming that I mean, I think he does some things that are evil. Like they're like, what's even the point of the kids? Like, come on, you're teaching them how to read and write and then ripping out their tongues. Like, how does
Yeah.
that even help?
Yeah, he's definitely not a good guy. He might be
Well,
playing both. Yeah, he might be playing both sides against the middle.
right, but the at least it's 5. But,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, I guess we are kind of talking about this as Anyway, the point is, if Ned went to Dorcas, so
Mhm.
Dorcas is involved, right? And we know Oswald would be involved, and so I mean, the idea could be that in fact he thinks Littlefinger thinks he's loyal to Littlefinger, but he's not. He's if anything, he's more loyal towards Aegon and Val and Dany
Right.
and Dorcas.
Well, I mean, my theory is that 6 people survived the Tower of Joy. You got Ned, Howland Reed, the Three Kings Guard, and Lord Willem Dustin. They all had to have something to do, and I'm not sold on the fact that Ned's brain wasn't slightly tweaked by Howland Reed. There are probably certain things that Ned would object to, or Ned didn't know, because we're in Ned's head a couple times. We get no mention of it whatsoever. I don't know if that's a.
No, we don't. I mean, he's deliberately withholding information, right? I mean,
right.
Ned clearly knows that Ned clearly knows that Rhaegar has surviving offspring.
Right, but my thing is that if Ned remembered every bit of the powwow at the Tower of Joy with Howland Reed, why would he go south?
That's probably supposed to be dull-witted, but anyway.
What's that?
Safer because they're assumed to be dull-witted because they don't speak. People don't find them suspicious or clever. See Wax. Oh shoot! Exactly. Just realized I'm not live. LOL.
Somebody text back. Ned keeps it
locked up so tight that we get is fever dreams, and we know those aren't reliable. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's clearly deliberately withholding information because there is in fact surviving offspring of Rhaegar, and Ned is withholding that information, and he knows that is the case, right? So right. That's why I've always said, he can have Melisandre as a point of view. He could probably have Dorcas and Littlefinger as points of view and still withhold whatever he wants to withhold, right?
Right. I mean, yeah.
I think that Catelyn is withholding some information, to put it mildly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had said something earlier in one of our videos about Ned not recognizing Mance Rayder as Sir Arthur Dayne.
I think he might recognize him, but he wouldn't speak up if he did, right? If he did, he wouldn't. Oh, by the way, I've been lying to all of you.
Well, no, he's not. Yeah, he's not going to point them out. I mean, hell, they could have even had a secret meeting.
The argument that Ned would have recognized Arthur is like, no, he specifically would have refused to recognize Arthur.
No, I'm saying that he did recognize Sir Arthur Dayne. Yeah. Part of the pact is he's not going to say anything.
Right. Of course not.
They could have easily had a secret meeting that we know nothing about.
Oh, yeah. Greenhand has talked about that. It's quite possible that Ned has actually been continuing to coordinate. Right. He specifically tells us right at the beginning that Mance Rayder is nothing to fear. Right. He's
and then he throws in. Well, if he's a problem, then we'll ride out and take care of him at the end of the conversation.
Yeah, but the implication is that he really doesn't fear Mance Rayder because, in fact, he's working with Mance Rayder.
That was driving me crazy on my hat, man. I got it on sale, and until just now, I didn't realize why it was on sale because it's all wonky.
Oh. Okay.
It's a Stetson. I only paid $50 for it. For my 50th birthday, so it was like a sign from the gods that I need to buy this hat. And I just realized it's wonky as all get out there in the front. But I think it's a giant power.
On your 50th birthday.
What's that?
You've been wearing that hat since your 50th birthday, and you just now realized?
Yeah, I never paid any attention.
I'm pretty sure
when I see my video, when I see my image. All I see is half my mouth. I automatically go to it. I see it. I see it more than other people see it, and it drives me crazy. I'm very, very.
Yes, Pod. I do think Stannis is completely. I don't think Melisandre goes around betraying Stannis. I think Stannis is in fact very much aware. In fact, I think the line "I know who he is" supposed to tell us that Stannis cuts kind of cuts John off and says, "I know who he is." Like, I think he's supposed to be
Well,
telling
I
us that Stannis
yeah, I
really does
agree
know him.
with I agree with the Green Hand.
Right?
That
They've been talking for hours.
well, I mean, I agree that Mance Raider was coming back from meeting with Stannis. Lost your video there for a second.
Yeah, I see it. It's telling me again, and it says that I have to refresh the page. If
Okay,
I do that, it's going to kick me out again, like it did last time.
that's fine. That's fine. We'll
You
talk
want me
bad
to,
about you until you come
want me
back
to be a
on.
disembodied voice, or you want me to come back?
No, you can come back. That's fine.
All
We
right.
still got a couple minutes of theories to talk about. I'll wait till you come back. Hey, Pod. Your internet connection doing good? I'd seen on there that your internet connection was running slow, so you were 30 minutes behind. I thought it was pretty funny.
I don't know why it does that, but anyway.
Oh yeah, I agree with the Order of Green Hand that Mance Rayder was not north of the Wall and then beat Robert to the Winterfell. That he was coming back from a meeting with Stannis, a meeting at White Harbor with Lord Manderley, that Lizzie's brother-in-law doesn't like, unfortunately.
It's a little weird that he has a bag of silver anyway, right? So
Yeah, that is a big
that
key
almost
to,
implies White Harbor.
yeah, without a doubt. Silver coins are definitely associated with White Harbor, the Manderleys, throughout the books. So I mean,
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. And then the Dahlia, his wife, potentially the only other place I think we hear Dahlia.
Yep.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that, James. Don't ship potato chip.
It's fine, brother. Don't say this. I was like,
I heard that before, and I've only heard it once before, I think, and I can't. It was only a couple of weeks ago. But I like that saying. So yeah, there's connection with Mance Rayder and Dragonstone. There's a connection with Mance Rayder and the Manderleys. So I think Order of Greenhand is spot on where Mance Rayder was coming from, and the the Fellowship of the Old Powers Awakening is about the only thing I can call them. They're all waiting around for a certain thing. This explains why Stannis, as soon as he got the note read to him from the Night's Watch, boom, that's where he goes. He drops everything else and heads straight to the Wall. And I agree.
Yeah.
Hmm?
At a minimum, he's got the at a minimum, it's very suspicious that Mance Rayder somehow has informants to tell him this is happening, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and the timing and so forth is. I agree with you. There's something going on there. Somehow he's in communication with people in the South. He has a bag of silver stags. That sure sounds like the logical thing is that he's somehow communicating with the Mandaleys or something, right? So
right. Well, I mean,
whether he's visiting or just has some sort of network of communication set up, there's something going on there, and of course they've also speculated that the trees might actually be being used when people take these long times to be praying. I think there's a specific reference about Ned taking a long time at prayers and stuff. Right?
And the face on the trees seemed to resemble the lord of that castle. The face at Winterfell, up until a certain point, looks like Ned. The face at the Wolf's Den looks like Lord Manderley. There's a communication going on through the trees. What else?
To get back to Pod's specific question, I mean, we're specifically told. I definitely agree with the Order of Greenhand here that the conversation, they've been talking for hours. And the conversation is clearly not just you need to bend the knee, I won't bend the knee. You need to bend the knee, I won't bend the knee. Right? So,
I mean, there's a whole lot of nah. Oh, just.
I think Stannis even says that he knows much more of our enemy or of the enemy and so forth, right? And
right.
So anyway, no, he needs to publicly execute him.
Yeah.
But and we know that when people need to publicly execute people that they don't really want to execute, they typically execute somebody else in their place.
Well, I mean, it also, like you said and pointed out plenty of times in the story, when somebody's supposed to be dead,
Yeah,
I mean, it's never them.
right.
It takes two to tango, so I don't think Melisandre did that without Stannis not knowing.
No, the whole
Yeah,
point of Melisandre and Stannis is in a patriarchy, people have a tendency to blame the foreign witch woman when
right.
it's really the ultimate authority left rests with the patriarchy.
Yeah. Well, what scares me on the Serene thing, um, is it going to be all Melisandre, or is Stannis going to break that final straw that everybody's Stannis the
No, it
man,
has to be
he's the
Stannis. I
man?
mean, that's the whole point of setting him
Yeah.
up with as the Mad King, right? And having him
Yeah.
parallel all the Mad King stuff is he has to make some final desperate,
Yeah.
evil sacrifice. And that yeah, people have talked about this that it would be like an exercise in poor writing if it's not Stannis.
I agree. That's I don't like him for the simple fact that he killed his brother. I don't like him. Like Jamie, I give a pass because Jamie's going to save the world and grow wings and live forever. And Jamie the Golden,
Doesn't mean you don't like Jory. It just means it doesn't mean you don't
right?
like
But
Jory
I
and our.
don't. Yeah, I don't like Stannis enough to get past the fact that he killed his younger brother.
Right. This is it.
Yeah, like I said
I got
before,
it.
if you like a character, you
He's an
give him a
interesting
pass.
character.
Yeah, he is an
He's an
interesting
interesting
character.
character, but he's intended to represent the Mad King and patriarchy. He's supposed to be that, right? And
Right.
anyway,
Well, I mean, if there wasn't getting back to the powwow at the Tower of Joy, that powwow had to be extremely long and extremely important when you have Corn Halfhand sacrifice his life for Jon Snow. Something was said at the Tower of Joy, whether it was involving the last hero or there you go. I appreciate that, James. Everybody else on here just gives me shit about liking Jamie. Uh, whether they were told that Jon Snow was the Azor Ahai, the last hero, or just told that he's extremely important. He's part of the last hero and his 12 companions type situation, that he has to be there to help bring on the dawn. The man gave up his life to save Jon Snow. That
yeah,
tells me that the powwow and all the stuff that was done to move Val, to move Danny, to move Fagon, I mean, it had to be just like Knights of the Round Table sitting there, and this is what's going to happen. Howland Reed's in charge of it. I mean, I cannot wait for all of this to be known, where I don't look like a raving lunatic. On what happened at the Tower of Joy, and what we're going to be seeing, and the reasons this was done and that was done.
Yeah. So someday we'll
somebody told me
get
that.
to actually share that our symbolism and history lessons with the world. Right.
Right. When the next two books come out, we'll have millions of followers, and they'll be like, "Oh, they were right the whole time. They're the best." They have such good technology and know how to edit videos.
Yeah, of course we do. Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Oh shit! I forgot what I was going to say.
The sad part is
yeah.
I think
I remember what it was. Somebody told me Half Hand was about it, not
no
half
stepping.
Yep. He was badass. Somebody told me that an AI finished the last two books. And
but that doesn't matter because they're just going based on the group think and stuff.
Yeah, they're going on their.
That's why I'm actually not that happy with some of Preston's stuff too, right? Because it's like, oh come on, this is, he's gonna, of course he's gonna do Quentin is alive, which is it's fine, but he's also,
I love that theory. I freaking love
that. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, as I said, I think George likes things to be ambiguous. He's surprised that there aren't more people who believe that Jon Snow isn't going to die at all, right? He specifically said that he thought that there'd be AI, no soul in its art.
Exactly.
I mean,
Well, Jeffrey from Book Club, I think he'd read part of it and said it was crap.
I can believe
Which
it.
I would never read an AI version of George's World. I don't want his friends to finish writing the book if something should happen to him. I want, even though it's taken a while, I want George's mind and George's words and George's conclusions.
Well, I mean,
Hopefully,
if you combined, I could see if you combined, you know, the Expanse guys with AI, with George's notes, like as long as George's notes is in there. I mean, I certainly prefer George to finish himself,
exactly.
but I mean, if I could get George's ideas with people that understand George's style and so forth, I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that
it
would be
needs to
okay.
be.
But
It
I mean,
needs to
it'd be
be.
better than nothing.
Yeah, yeah. It would need to be George telling them
Great
that
value brand
this.
winner.
Oh,
Like,
11
this
read
does not ever read
anyone's
anyone's
great
great
value
value
brand.
brand of wins the winner. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, it needs to be George going, all right, Jon Snow, this is going to happen, 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 this is going to happen. And then Danny, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. I
Well,
mean, it needs to
one of
be.
the things with Preston that I do like is that he's taken some of the sample chapter stuff is partial. Right. Of course. That's what I'm saying, James. Is if I definitely would like to know what
Yeah.
I would definitely like to know what George's idea of the finish is, even if
Yeah.
he's unable to finish. I'd like to know what his ideas were, and that's all I was
Yeah.
saying. Was I'd rather have that than nothing. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, something
and the
happened
way
to
to
him.
do that would be to have people that understand his style and so forth.
Well, I mean, he said that there are certain people that know how the books are going to end. If something happened to him, then they would finish the books. But I would want every major thing, every minor and major thing that happens.
He said that isn't true. He said that he doesn't.
Oh,
he doesn't want anybody to finish it.
Oh, if he dies, he doesn't want him to finish it.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that Paris knows how it's supposed to end. Right. I'm sure Paris knows how it's supposed to end. And
all right. Well, I'm going to call George this afternoon, have a talk with him, and. Hey, you remember the episode of Big Bang Theory with Sheldon and Leonard tried to was it George Lucas where he lives tried to break in or something? I can't remember who it was. William Shatner, George Lucas, somebody. Well, I think we need to and you remember they were like the big let's storm Roswell, and the guy never showed up, but a bunch of other people did. I think we need to storm George.
Well, yeah, I mean, he said he gave people permission to do that, right? So
yeah, we got to lock him in a cell above an acid lake.
As Ferris wheels her knife and says, "All I know is Arya survives." It still annoys me that like 4 of the last 5 Maester monthlies have had them making fun of people for Skywalker Ranch. The episode. It still annoys me that like 4 of the last 5 Maester monthlies had them making fun of people for believing that that the Cosmo article and the YouTube clips that say what they say actually exist and say what they say. And I'm like, I think it's like Bookshelf Stud that's like, I've Googled it and that never happened. I'm certain. And I'm like, how? It's like it wasn't that hard to find the Cosmo article and when I had basically posted the Cosmo article to the Song of Ice and Fire subreddit where which is presumably what Maester Monthly is supposed to be about, right? And said, why do they keep saying this? This is clearly not the case, right? Here's the Cosmo article, and people are like, I don't know why they keep saying this. Like, here's a YouTube, so that's where I got the YouTube clip. You probably see me post the YouTube clip of George saying it. And, so anyway, the point is, Lizzie is speaking truth, and Maester Monthly is not. Anyway.
I agree 100%. All right. 50, almost 55 minutes on this short chapter. See, this is on the short chapters. I love
that's part of why I wanted to put the Oswald stuff in here, right? It's because I know it's a short chapter and it gives some stuff to talk about, right?
Yeah, I love the after chapter. I like the short chapter, so we have a little bit longer
Yeah,
to talk.
especially if there's something we can kind of, you know,
Tie into the
tangentially
chapter.
related that we can talk about based on that, right? Or
Yeah,
something's come up in the fandom or whatever.
yeah. The last thing. What would you say? What'd you say the last Toodles thing was?
Oh, he was talking about how there's if you look at it as, hey, Sir Dave,
Hey, man, it's been a
sometimes you got
while.
to
Hey,
say
sir, Dave
whatever.
Miller.
Howdy, howdy, good sirs and ladies, just checking in. Finally got some momentum rolling on my way. I'm back to kicking ass thanks to positive energy I get from folks like you guys. Sorry so long.
Hey,
Hey, no
man,
problem, Sir Dave.
I'm glad things are rolling your way. Take as long as you
Absolutely,
need. You're always welcome, and you're always missed. Uh,
absolutely. But
wh-
I was just saying that one of the recent tools was that he went through and looked and was like what if for some reason, you know, Littlefinger really is about Harrenhal, and
mhm,
he said, you know, he would. Don't you think he would know what's going to be Tywin's reaction? Don't you? I mean, that's kind of his thing, right? You guys are the best. 100. Um, yeah, that's kind of his thing, right? Is knowing and who would he be most? You know, Tywin is basically, you know, the most or one of the most powerful people on the
mhm.
planet. He's
Right.
somebody that Littlefinger would be knowing how he'll move, right? And so
Yeah.
his point was he put, you know, Janice there and knowing that that would leave an opening at Harrenhal,
Right.
right? And knowing that if they promoted him, he would be able to you know, to go to get to win the Vale for them, right?
Right.
And so his point is that it sure seems like he had always positioned himself for that, right? Knowing how he plays the game.
Right.
Um, so anyway,
All right. Well, again, sorry guys. Wednesday is Carter's first day in his new school, year-round school down in South Carolina. So I've chosen to drive 45 minutes to take him to school, so he's not behind. Because school here in North Carolina doesn't start till the 28th, and that'll put him a couple of weeks behind. He has enough of a hard time with reading as it is.
see,
But
do a heck
Wednesday,
of a commute.
it's all right. I don't mind.
Yep,
It's for his betterment.
sure,
I don't want him to be a couple weeks behind walk in, and everybody is already made friends and all that kind of stuff.
sure.
So he's there first day, and then from 11 to 1 o'clock, I have it. Not that
One dad.
I appreciate that, but I mean, I mean,
I just heard it on the audio.
good time, yeah.
Oh
Uh,
no, you know, the commute back and forth for school.
yeah, I mean, chances are I cannot listen to it on the way there, but I could definitely listen to it on the way back, without a doubt. But from 11 to 1 o'clock, I am waiting on my storage building for my motorcycles. Um, I have no internet out there now, so I thought about trying to do a live from the property, but phones
Lizzie
don't
apparently
work
doesn't
there.
believe in restricting potentially child inappropriate media. She's suggesting, I believe, that as you drive, you would start it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just now told my 16-year-old daughter if she wanted to read the Song of Ice and Fire, I would have no problem with it.
She's up to this class to learn more about the Targaryen.
Well, he does know who Jon Snow is.
So we draw the line at 16 since that's the age of majority in Westeros, huh?
Well, I mean, I had a year subscription to Playboy when I was 11 years old. I have watched R-rated movies from 11 years old on, with no exceptions.
Yeah,
Anyone that
whenever
I
Alien first came out on HBO, that would be the first time that I was pretty little. It was pretty
yeah.
terrifying.
Um,
Our kids can have their own book club.
yeah, this is true. My son knows to work this crap. He might be able to edit a video. You never know. He knows more about these phones than I do. But we're right there at an hour. Again, I do apologize for missing Wednesday, but we will make up for it on Friday with Tyrion 14. I appreciate everybody being here. James, it's nice seeing you. Sir Dave Zillow, like I said, man, I'm glad things are rolling your way. We miss you when you're gone and glad to see you when you're here. Lady Thistle, as always, book club would not be book club without you. I am so glad that me and Chris do the split to where I can talk to you, and I will find out Wednesday if I have connection and internet at Carter's school to where we can go back to doing our chats. Because I know Lizzie said at book club she can't wait to Carter start school again, so we can still talk there after videos and stuff like that. Tell Carter he will do great. I appreciate it. We got his haircut today. I've been joking for 4 days. It was getting a mohawk. He sits down in the chair and the lady's like, "All right, how are we cutting your hair?" And he looked there and said, "Mohawk." I said, "No, I was kidding. You ain't getting a mohawk." So, oh, I snorted. That was rude. All right, man. I appreciate all this. Lizzie, I was glad you were first today. So we will see y'all Wednesday. I do appreciate it. Y'all have a good day. Enjoy your hump day without me, and take care. Bye, Richard.
Bye.